Well, obviously we're incredibly excited, obviously to be at home as well. But just from the start of this season, it's been like for everybody, it's been quite a whirlwind, and to know where we are right now, where we were in August when we kind of were out away at camp and had to take a pause to figure out what our team wanted to do because there was a lot of things around us that were that were closing down and shutting down, and the Big Ten, when they closed down, just being in this area was a really difficult one. And so our guys had to make some decisions all the time when we were away. And, this was why we made the decision, is just in case we had an opportunity to really play and, to get a season in, that we wanted an opportunity, a chance at a championship. And that's what we've wanted since we got here. That's been our goal every start of every year, is give us an opportunity to play for a championship. And through everything that's happened, from 21-day layoffs to another 21-day layoff to we'll end up being a 28-day layoff, it's kind of all coming to a head on Saturday, and we're excited about it.
Okay, we'll take our first question for Coach Fickell from Justin Williams from The Athletic, please.
Hey, Coach. Just curious, after the past couple of weeks, what can you tell us about the general health and availability? I know it's early in the week, but how you're feeling heading towards Saturday?
Well, I think all of our team now, for the most part, is back off of the protocols for a lot of things. But I don't know that you all know that, and we all know that different things are affected by it. So I think we're in a pretty good shape and in a pretty good place right now, getting through some minor things that come along with having being off for 14, 15, 16 days or so. But other than that, I think we should hopefully by Saturday be in good shape with just about everybody.
Okay, we'll go next to Chad Brendel from Bearcat Journal.
Coach, you talked about getting back to practice last week. How do you feel the team has responded to getting back out there and being able to get them focused back in on playing for a championship on Saturday?
Well, they're excited. That's what they love to do. It's just kind of unique as you're coming back and knowing that you've been off for, not haven't done anything for like 14 days. And, there's work to be done, but there's also, some things you got to do as you work yourself back in, not myself, but as you work all the different guys back into it. So it's been kind of unique as they come back and started to work, and we're hoping to even play last week to then having to push it and play this week. So it's been a unique challenge. Some people would think that, hey, you've had some time off, kind of like you're preparing for a bowl game. The reality is that's not it. That's not the case in any way, because you just had no real idea how everything was going to go and what was going to go, and it was kind of a roller coaster even the last week. So again, I think our guys are really excited that they're back to practice and they're back to playing. By Wednesday, I'm sure they'll really hope that Saturday can get here as soon as possible.
Take the next question from Joe Daneman, please.
Hey, Luke, we've been asking so many questions here the last, month, 6 weeks about the college football playoff, but you've been steadfast in saying that your number one priority is winning a conference championship. Why is the conference championship such a priority for you and your football team?
Well, that was the goal when we walked in here. And we didn't even say win a championship. We said, hey, we want to play for championships. I think you always got to kind of put things in line and how you want to do things. And first and foremost is you got to give yourself an opportunity. And obviously, if you play well enough, you can have a chance to play for a championship. If you play well enough there, then you have a chance to win a championship. So I just think it's all making sure our guys can kind of lock in and focus from the day we walked in the door here 4 years ago about the little things that you got to do in the process that has to go and take place in order for you, to see goals that you dream of down the end of the line.
Go next to Brendan Staho, please.
Hey, Coach, I know you purposely don't watch on Tuesday nights when they put out those rankings, but I saw you on with Fox this week, so I asked for Fox College Football. Did you feel disrespected at all that you guys got moved down a spot to 8 when you're undefeated and you're competing for a conference title?
No, I've always believed that sometimes you're out of sight, out of mind, and it hasn't been a great situation for us because we haven't had the ability to play. And, from the time any of this talk started about anything like that, I've always said you got to be playing your best ball at the end of the year. Well, if you're not playing, it's kind of difficult to show your best ball. So things like that are going to happen, I would imagine. And again, I don't put a whole lot of stock into it. I'm not even sure I knew that unless I would happen to scroll through Twitter or something and see us post something via our own websites. But I don't put a whole lot of stock. I got a lot of the things that rise and drop my blood pressure and all the other things going on, and fortunately, that's not one of them.
We'll go next to Bill Dennison from WLW Radio.
Coach, can you give us a scouting report on Tulsa for this Saturday?
Yeah, they're a really good football team. I think more than anything that their ability, they are battle tested. They have had more really, really tight and close games from day one, from their first game of the year against Oklahoma State, to their ability to be down in a bunch of games and just continue to grind it out and find a way to be successful at the end. And that's what you want in a program. That's what you want in your team. And I think more than anything I could say, obviously offensively, they are battle tested and they find a way, whether they've been down in a lot of games, they've found a way to kind of grind it out and outlast a lot of people.
Now to Morgan Beard from KTUL in Tulsa, please.
Hey, Coach, over here in Tulsa, we've been talking to Phil Montgomery about Zaven Collins all year long and that defense in total from you. And I guess when you've prepared for them maybe the 2 or 3 different times that you thought you were going to play them this year, what do you see from Zaven? I mean, he's getting a lot of attention with these postseason awards and whatnot. So what do you see from him, and what do you think of him as a player and just the way he's kind of just exploded this year?
He should be up for a lot of those things. I mean, just an incredibly well-rounded football player. Sometimes you'd see a big guy like that, and you'd say, okay, he's a run stopper, and then all of a sudden, well, he is 6'4", 6'5", so he's hard to throw the ball over. So he does a decent job. No, he does a really good job in both phases, and I think that's where he's got a really bright future in playing the game. And obviously, I hope he gets the recognition he deserves throughout this end of the season. But in the long run, I think he's got a really, really upside because he can do pretty much everything. He can play the run, he can rush, and he does a really good job in coverage as well. So regardless of what kind of defense you play at the next level, you're looking for guys that can play in all 3 phases like that.
A quick follow-up. Montgomery also likes to talk about the rest of the defense, saying he thinks he has 2 all-conference cornerbacks as well. What do you see from Tulsa on that side of the ball, outside of Zaven as well? What makes them so difficult? And I guess what do you see from them that presents such a challenge for you guys?
Well, I think length is a big deal, and I think that they've done a great job as you look across the board, especially in that back end. Corners that are long, and they do a good job that with some of their 8-man drop stuff and mixing up coverage, so they're not just kind of out on an island all the time. So I think that the balance to being able to mix it up gives their guys a great opportunity to be aggressive, whether that's clouding it up and being able to trigger and play some run defense as a corner at times. And their length, they just like you said with Zaven, I think it gives you a lot of issues when you've got guys, especially in the back end, with a lot of length.
We'll go next to Keith Jenkins from the Cincinnati Enquirer, please.
Hey, Luke, you touched on this previously a little bit earlier, but, when you have so much time to prepare for a single opponent, what could be a con to that for you, just from a preparation standpoint?
Well, you start over-evaluating things. I think if you start preparing too early, which is, what's difficult, if you start preparing too early, by the time you get to Tuesday or Wednesday's practice, your guys are bored, and they can't kind of, get in a rhythm to kind of get that point in time where they, on Saturday night that they're ready to roll. And if you get them too early, get them ready too early because you start game planning and working on the things that you're going to see so early, I think it can backfire on you at times. So it's quite a balance, and that's why it's been so unique with, having a layoff and then coming back and not knowing exactly, as you were trying to come back, when you were going to play. And so it's been a challenge, let's just say.
We'll go back to Joe Danman. The next question, please.
Coach, to follow up on my question earlier about the conference championship and how that's something you can control, and that's a goal you can put out there, and the whole season, that's the one thing you can control, is by winning games to get there. obviously the college football playoff is out of your control. So my question is, it's been such a talker amongst your fan base, the college football playoff here the last month. How much of that is something that you even care about, considering that you can't control it as a football coach?
Well, I mean, I can't lie that I don't care about it, because that would be a lie. And again, I can't say that in a sense because, we use it in recruiting, and it generates and creates momentum for our program. Not to mention our kids love it, and when you've got positive momentum, whether it's, talk or this, that, and I think that's the greatest thing about what college football has. They don't put 64 guys in a bracket and say, well, it's pretty easy to figure out who's the best one because you all play each other and you go. You create some controversy in college football because you got a bunch of different people that believe that they deserve a shot. So with that controversy creates more talk, and it does the same thing for us in our program. I think it's great for our community. I think it's awesome for recruiting. You just got to know how to handle it. And I worry as a coach, if our guys get too tied up in worrying about things like that they can't control, it can take away from the things that they can control and what they need to do. So there's a balance to it. I understand. Obviously, it's always great to even be in the mention, to put yourself in a position where you're even mentioned and can be talked about. And then you got to use it. You got to use it in the positive way, whether it's with your team or with your program or in recruiting or within your community. So, it's tricky. You got to be smart with it. But I think that all in all, it does a lot for our program.
Go back to Chad Brendel, Bearcat Journal for the next one, please.
Coach, when you watch this Tulsa team, do you see any of maybe what you guys were going through the past couple years in building that winning mentality, playing a lot of close games? Is there familiarity there with you when you watch them?
No, I think so. I think that Phil's been there for a while. But even last year, as they came in here with, I don't even know what their record was, but I know that they, had a lot of close games and hadn't won them. And I thought it was a really good football team when they came in here, and then they left out of here, and I knew it was a really good football team. So you've seen it continue to grow, and I think that's where you really kind of build who you are, and you love to build who you are by having some of those close wins and comeback wins, because you grow even faster, like happened to us, I think, in year two. But I think that you definitely see a battle-tested team and has fought through a lot of those things, because a year before they probably lost some of those close games, and this year they've been phenomenal in those close games.
Go back to Justin Williams from The Athletic, please.
Coach, I know you'd prefer to focus on just the football stuff, and you've talked a lot this year that you haven't had that luxury. No one really has. How have you seen yourself grown or change as a coach, whether the past couple of weeks, everything you've been dealing with, or just going all the way back to August?
I don't know. I mean, I guess in some ways you really got to rely upon a lot of other people, because you gotta listen. Whether that's your other coaches, whether that's the players, the leadership group on your team. You're trying to figure out. I use the example of 2020, and you got to have ability to be flexible, whether it's the COVID stuff, whether it's canceled games, whether it's social and all are great for us to grow, whether it's as a football program, as a coach, as a leader, as a father. And my ability to kind of rely upon a lot of other people and listen more than I talk, because there's a lot of different things they go through, whether they're assistant coaches' heads or a lot of the guys on our team's heads, just with everything that has gone on from the start of camp through this entire season.
Okay, we'll go next to Gary Miller, Local 12, please.
Coach, one of the reasons, I know it's easier to get in the Final Four if you're closer to it. So one of the reasons the committee gave for Iowa State jumping was the wins over Texas and West Virginia. With so many conference championships coming up this weekend, do you feel like these two teams could play in any of them, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, and be competitive and have a chance to win them?
I do. I mean, I haven't studied every other, conference or program, but I think it's pretty evident. I think what Tulsa has done this year, and the ability to, like I said, to be good in all three phases, meaning you've got to be able to win close games, and they have done a great job of that. They've played obviously Oklahoma State, who at one time was up there as well. You know, and we've been battle tested. I think that we maybe haven't had one of those games this year that somebody would kind of reference back. Whether it was an SEC team or something like that. But I think in the way that which we've played in all three phases, playing really well defensively, offensively, and really dynamic in the special teams, I think it gives us a chance. There's no doubt. I mean, I think that we would be able to play. I believe Tulsa would be able to play in any of these other conference championships and be in a really good position. I don't pay attention to Vegas. I don't know what Vegas would say. And most coaches would say that about their team. But I do believe it because it's not a one-dimensional team on our side, and I don't think it's a one-dimensional team on Tulsa's side either.
Go next to Jason Sam, BearcatReport.com.
Hey, Coach, you're obviously not the only one to deal with layoffs this year and pauses, obviously, with everybody deals with COVID and stuff. But going into this situation specifically, like, what have you done, or how are you planning on hopefully, eliminating any rust or bad starts or anything from your team just due to the layoff and not having that game action?
Well, we tried to have some semblance of a scrimmage on Saturday. Obviously it's not a scrimmage. Obviously it's not live. Obviously you're not tackling. But just even going through, what a pregame feels like, what shifting from kickoff to defense to punting and just the normal interactions of a game, because to me the things that happen are, fundamentally you're lax. You haven't ran the kickoff team out there. You haven't substituted on third downs and situations like that. And so we tried to go through, in some ways a mock game as best we possibly could, just to get our minds back into the flow of things. And I mean that as a player. I also mean that as calling the game as well, both offensively and defensively. So, the good thing, I guess you'd say, is we came back from camp and I think had 20-some days before our first game. And then in the middle of that season, we had a bye, and then we obviously canceled it the first time for Tulsa, and then we played the following week, and we had 21 days off there. So, all of which we at least had a better plan because we knew, when the game was going to be and what was coming ahead. This one was even more unique because you weren't really sure. So nonetheless, I hope and believe that our guys with the maturity and, the older guys that we have, that we have done a good enough job since we've done it twice this year, and but we'll tell. Saturday will tell.
Time for two more. We'll go to Caleb Noe from WCPO, please.
Hey, Coach, I want to ask about Des Ridder a little bit here. Obviously, everybody's seen how he's come onto the scene this year, but he seems like a guy who just quietly gets the job done and does his thing. I want to ask you, though, I hope it's not a broad question. I want to ask you who he is off the field. What do we not see from Des Ridder by just watching the games on Saturdays?
Well, you probably haven't seen, because when you say he's a guy that's kind of come on the scene this year, for us, he's been on the scene for 3 years. He was a redshirt guy when we came in here, and had no idea what and who he was, and he just was running around over there on the scout team. And had he not probably been hurt as a freshman in camp, he probably would have had some opportunities to play in his true freshman year, just based on the way the season was going for us. And he's a guy that is incredibly competitive in what he does. I really do think he's one of those guys that lives football. He loves the game of football and studying the game of football and all about the game of football. He is a student of the game, which is why I think he's got a bright future. Last year I think he struggled a little bit because he is such a perfectionist, and he wanted everything. He believed in that second year he wanted everything to go as he thought it and planned it out in his mind. And I think he went through some ups and downs, realizing that it's never going to happen quite the way you envision it. And there's a lot of things that are just going to have to do and continue to do a bit on the fly, because it's so unique of how everybody prepares against you, in general. So he's a guy that loves the game. I think that he's got still a high ceiling. He could continue to grow in a lot of areas just as a football player, and the sky's the limit.
Okay, take the final question from Keith Jenkins of Cincinnati Enquirer, please.
Hey, Luke, the weird thing about this week is, yes, this is a huge game to prepare for Saturday, but then the early signing period starts on Wednesday. So how are you able to balance that? And Is that a challenge for you as you're looking at this week ahead?
There's no doubt, because that's a big part of our program. I mean, recruiting is a huge part. Now, I'm not saying we were going to, by any means, push anything that we're doing to prepare for this game. But we'll make a big day of Wednesday. Wednesday will be a big preparation day football-wise, but then it's going to be a big day for us, hoping and believing we sign probably our entire class on Wednesday. So, we'll have a balance to it. Obviously, we're continuing to work. I think that's what you do throughout the entire season anyway. But continuing to work these last few days to make sure we're good for Wednesday morning as well. So there's a lot on the plates of all these coaches that they're excited about of getting to Wednesday and then getting to Saturday, because a lot of prep and a lot of work have been put into both phases there.